Today on Locked On Rockies, lots of changes for the front office, lots of changes for the coaching staff. Let's take a look at some of the options and where the Rockies might go when it comes to coaching. Take a look at some of the financials of the Colorado Rockies. And I know the next game is going to be finished by the time this episode airs, but we got to talk about that classic World Series game.
You are Locked On Rockies, your daily Colorado Rockies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Rock on Rockies fans, welcome into the Locked On Rockies podcast for today, the 29th day of October in the year 2025. I'm your host of the Locked On Rockies podcast, Paul Holden, bringing you your daily Colorado Rockies talk right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where you can find your team every day. If your team is the Colorado Rockies, then guess what? You're in the right spot, because that's what we do around here each and every day, free and streaming on your favorite streaming services and on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel, where you can be part of the show. You can fire off your Rockies hot takes. You can let me know what's on your mind when it comes to the Colorado Rockies. Today, I want to talk a little bit about where the Rockies might go when it comes to coaching staffs. Well, just kind of see where the Rockies are at when it comes to coaching staffs and what they're where they might be looking at. Thanks to our friends at Purple Row. Plus, we'll take a look at the current situation when it comes to contracts and money for the Rockies, as they have they have freedom to spend more. But it is that really interesting question of, what does spending look like in this offseason? And then I want to talk a little bit about, of course, 18 innings in a World Series game in which Shohei Ohtani and the Dodgers come back and win. Was it a comeback? Or I can't remember who scored for it. Survived the marathon and won. And we can't ignore this. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. The Dodgers are inevitable. But again, that's the final boss, and the final boss plays in your division. You can't hide from the Dodgers. Let's dive into all that and more on today's episode. But before we do, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. So, want to start by heading over to Purple Row here and reading from the Rockies' upcoming hire as two vital tasks ahead of him. And this is from Evan Lang. And the first one was building a front office, and we know that. But the second part of Evan's piece here focuses on the coaching staff. And I want to read there a little bit here on the from Evan's piece here, just because this is going to be a really interesting part, and I think this leads to one of the biggest questions of this offseason. What is going to be the future of Warren Schaefer? So again, reading from Purple Row here. It will also be important for the new front office to make sure each minor league coaching staff has enough resources dedicated to it. Rockies radio commentator Jack Corrigan pointed out earlier this season that the Rockies only have 3 coaches under the manager with the low-A Fresno Grizzlies, comparing them to when he was with Cleveland in 1985. This is true of each Rockies affiliate to an extent. From low A to triple A, there are 3 bespoke coaches: the hitting coach, pitching coach, and bench coach underneath the manager. There are 4 if you count training and performance coaches like High-A Spokane's Allison Kiraseki. I butchered that last name. Sorry, Allison. The Rancho Cucamonga Quakes, the low-A affiliate of the Dodgers, have multiple pitching coaches, as do the Arizona Diamondbacks AAA affiliate Reno Aces. The Rockies need to evaluate adding more coaches and player development resources to all of their affiliates. When it comes to the Rockies' big league coaching staff, the evaluation is a little stranger. The Rockies already have interim tags on their hitting coaches, bench coach, and manager, while pitching coach Darryl Scott parted ways with the team last week. Outside of bullpen coach Dustin Garneau and first base coach Ron Gideon, they essentially have the opportunity to start with a clean slate. Where things get complicated is in the fate of interim skipper Warren Schaefer. The organization is high on him, and he was learning on the fly after being thrust into duty after Bud Black was fired. However, the new front office will need to decide if Schaefer's is the right voice to lead this young team through a rebuild, or if they will want to bring their own man for the job. This is the part of, I mean, there's a lot to take away from this being the important part here. And let's start with the number of coaches, because this type of a question goes with one of my biggest questions is, What does the investment in the team look like from an ownership perspective? It's not just contracts. It's not just going out and hiring, people from outside the organization. What are you going to do after you, make those hires? What resources are these people going to have? And again, it's the question mark. We heard that, I can't remember if it was, I think it was one of it was Dick's brother talking about how the Rockies aren't necessarily a moneymaker. No regional sports, no regional sports package. The having to be a team, having your broadcast run by MLB, having the attendance, being a team that does have strong attendance numbers and is able to, put on events throughout the off season and bring people to Coors Field for concerts and things like that. But the question, but in reality, how much do those events go back into the Rockies? So when we're talking about, hey, why are the Dodgers able to continuously churn out talent? Why is Arizona able to get maximum level talent? Having those the depth of coaches there, having the depth of information, as we're seeing there, the minor leagues is all about development. It's all about growth. So it's not surprising to me to hear that the Dodgers have a lot of coaches invested in making sure that they can look at everything, have multiple eyes on their prospects, being able to find and absorb a ton of data, and then be able to apply that in the development of the player. So it's not only just about evaluating personnel and building out your staffs that way, which I think, I don't, Evan doesn't necessarily say that, but I would agree that the Rockies need to be adding on supplemental coaches into their organization. And that takes more money. That takes more investment, especially at the minor league levels, the lower levels. So what does that look like for Dick Monfort? How willing is he going to be to invest in the club? Not just make the call, but really give the team the resources that they need in order to be successful, especially when it comes to player development. Something that we've been told that this is a strength of the Rockies, but they haven't done so. So clearly, the approach with the development plan, either the approach or the resources allocated or the focus has not been enough. So I hope that this is part of the change that we see. I hope that the Rockies bring in people to really take in the information, take in the data, and coach these guys. Because it's not just to be a great coach in the modern game of baseball right now. You can't just be data analytics, just solely focus on the numbers. You got to be able to coach and apply and teach your player to perform and do the things that you're trying to see that the numbers can show that are possible. You have to then you take that possibility, take those probabilities, and turn them into realities. That's the key underlying part of player development, and obviously something that's very difficult to do. And then on top of this, we're talking about the Rockies needing to basically address the fact that they could have a brand new, completely new coaching staff, basically, with a couple of exceptions, like we said, Dustin Garneau and Ron Gideon. And it's not going to be the end of the world for me if Schaefer gets the job. But the Schaefer has to get the job because the team agrees, the team really believes, and Dick Monfort and the old guard that's there agrees with the new guard and the new leadership and the new folks that this is the best way to move forward for the Rockies. That this is the guy that can help this team go to the next level, and this is the team that can grow alongside the team. And grow with the team into a stronger and better manager and leader of men. But when it comes to those, it's all about finding the harmony at the major league level, though. If Warren Schaefer isn't the guy, and Evan points this out as well in the piece here earlier, talking about the front office here. Just want to read this. The likes of Vice President and Assistant General Manager of Scouting Danny Montgomery, Senior Director of Player Development Chris Forbes, and Vice President of International Scouting and development, Rolando Fernandez, are all likely safe during the rebuild, if only for their lengthy tenures with the organization. However, it might be in the best interest of the club to have them at least re-interview with the new head of baseball operations for their positions to make sure that they are fit with the vision for the rebuild. If not, then it might be time for some difficult partings of the way. And this has to be the mindset that Dick Monfort and the leadership of the Rockies have. Because step one is bringing in these people, making the new hires, bringing in the new folks into the organization. Step two is actually enacting their vision and following through. And that might lead to some tough conversations that make the world of business and the world of sports a tough one, a brutal one, a cutthroat one. But for some of these people that have had a long ride with the Rockies, their loyalty has been rewarded. This is going to be a situation where I think Dick Monfort is going to be tested across the board here. And this offseason and the moves that the Rockies make are going to show and signal how serious he is about actually changing and actually fixing what's wrong with a team that's very, very, very broken. So it's just in an interesting spot here when it comes to the coaching evaluations. Is it not the Rockies not only need to evaluate the coaching staffs and the coaches they have, but they need to be able to put the right resources in place to make sure that they are really doubling and tripling down as a team that can develop talent. The Rockies need to be able to turn to their farm system and need to be a team with a strong farm system in order to compete with teams that are already miles ahead of them at doing that, like Arizona, like the Dodgers. The Padres trade away basically every one of their prospects, so you never really know. And the Giants could be a really fascinating team with the changes that they're making. But it's clear that the Rockies have an investment and resource problem when it comes to player development. And we'll see how the Rockies address that. Speaking of money, let's take a look at the Rockies payroll and who's going to be paid the most, who might be hitting the road, and what arbitration looks like, and how this opens the door for the front office to really shake things up as well. Coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Rockies. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes PrizePicks. You and I make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement of this sports season, whether you're following the NFL, NBA, or both. There's no better time to jump in on the action. If you haven't tried it yet, PrizePicks is the simplest way to play. Just pick more or less on at least two player stats, and if you get them right, you win. It takes less than 60 seconds to make your lineup, and you can play anywhere PrizePicks operates, including California, Texas, and Georgia. You can check PrizePicks during football Sundays and NBA tip-offs to keep every game exciting. You can pick your favorite players and go with something like, hey, maybe even check it out. It's multi-sport. You want to go all in on Bo and the Broncos and Jokic and the Nuggets? Well, you can. The new Stacks feature is also a game changer. You can pick more on Steph's points, threes, and assists in the same lineup, or Jokic, same thing there. Plus, if one of your players leaves with an injury, the injury reboot saves your lineup from a loss. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. Locked On Rockies here, back with you for segment number 2 of this Wednesday edition of the show. Thank you so much again for making us your first listen of the day, free and streaming on your favorite streaming services and available on the Locked On Rockies YouTube channel. I want to hear from you folks. Let me know what's on your mind. I want to hear. Need more comments from my everydayers out there. Whatever's on your mind when it comes to the Colorado Rockies, fired off in the Locked On Rockies YouTube comment section. We'll rock and roll and chat about it. All right, let's talk a little bit about the Rockies here, and let's take a look a little bit at their money situation here at Sport Track. And Sport Track, does a lot of the finances and stuff. If you're curious here, the Rockies last year with the 21st ranked payroll, $125 million, just under $126 million. And surprisingly enough, when you look below the Rockies here and what they spend, 1 playoff team, 2 playoff teams, 3 playoff teams, and some interesting teams. It's especially interesting that the Rockies are paying, again, the White Sox, remember last year in 2024, worst team of all time record-wise. They're at $78 million this last year. A's at 78, roughly 78.5, I should say, for the White Sox. And Miami, the lowest, at $67 million. This, I think, is part of the frustration of Rockies player development and Rockies player acquisition here. 21st payroll in baseball, obviously not that big. But when you're looking at teams like Milwaukee, Cincinnati, Cleveland, and even some teams here that are successful, or one team I think in particular here in Tampa Bay, not really a successful season this year, but let's be honest, a weird season all in all for Tampa Bay in general. These teams are able to find success. And if you're willing to spend money at the rate and at the point that you did at this stage, the Rockies should still be encouraged and understand that if they can, and that, these other teams are effective, but if they are able to, if they're comfortable spending the money, that means they should be able to still attract some talent if they want to go out and make some moves here in this offseason to bring in some money, or to bring in some talent to beef up this team. They certainly have the cap space and the room to do so. And they're going to free up some stuff here, especially when you're talking about some of the money that they were going to be paying some of these guys here if they were to take the options. We're talking about a $10 million Estrada option, $4 million for Kyle Farmer if they were to take them. If you were comfortable offering that level of money to those players anyway, you should be still comfortable offering that level of money to players who hopefully can perform more or stay healthier and be on the field and be more of an impact for you. If you're willing to carry this high of a payroll during the time that you've been the worst team of all time, you still should be encouraged to spend a little to address some of your needs here. And I know that we talk about the Rockies scaling back, but that's only going to be able to do, you're only going to be able to do that so often, because eventually this team really is going to need an influx of free agent veteran talent to give it some juice, to give it some competitive games here. It's not going to be good enough to go to the playoffs here, but the Rockies are going to need to be able to find some veteran talent that's going to be able to contribute to this team, both in pitching and as position players here. And they are going to be facing a situation where they have the money to do so. Like I said, here, Rockies pending free agents, German Marquez and Orlando Arcia. Their market value, according to SportTrack, 3.2 for Marquez, 1.75 for Orlando Arcia. SportTrack says this: Estrada holds a $10 million mutual option in 2026, but it's largely expected that the team will decline that, reverting him back to arbitration status for this season. The only other option decision belongs to infielder Kyle Farmer, who holds a $4 million mutual option that the team is also expected to decline. Yeah, Estrada can't be making $10 million. 7 players are currently slated for, especially when you can go with the Estrada here, and it's $3.5 million for a guy that, could be your backup second baseman anyway. The health is a big enough concern that it says that it shows and the patterns throughout his career that Estrada can't necessarily be trusted to stay healthy here throughout the season. So second base is certainly going to be somewhere that you could look to upgrade in free agency. Brenton Doyle projected at $3 million. I'm fine with that. Same with Ryan Feltner, 2.5. Jimmy Herget at 2.5. Mickey Moniak, if it's $2 million for a year on arbitration, that's I think you go with that deal. I think you go with that Mickey Moniak deal. Let him prove it again, and then you kind of evaluate what's going on at the trade deadline and where you're going to go. Because again, Mickey Moniak overall had great moments, had some good stretches, but didn't blow the doors off and didn't make you say, we got to have this guy around here for the long haul. Tyler Freeman, 1.75, and Lucas Gilbreth, $1 million there for the rest of the arbitration. Okay, here's the big money that the Rockies here, and here's what SportTrack says, and this ain't going to make you feel any better, folks. Outfield first baseman Chris Bryant has now spent 4 years in Colorado, reeling in $104 million while compiling a negative 1.85 WAR over that span. Starting pitcher Kyle Freeland, $16 million, can unlock a $17 million player option in 2027 if he competes 170 innings in 2026, or completes, I should say, 170 innings in 2026. Ezekiel Tovar's pre-arbitration extension runs through 2031, carrying a cost-effective $9 million tax salary. Antonio Senzatella, third highest paid there, $10.1 million for the now reliever. So Chris Bryant is going to be making $26 million next year. Kyle Freeland, 12.9, 10.1 for Senza, and then Tovar at 9. So again, these, if you're, I know that these were given out earlier, but the Rockies gave out some of these contracts, these double-digit million-dollar contracts. I hope to see that this team will look to bring in some of that talent this year to help bolster the team at first base, at second base. If they can find the right deals without overcommitting to things, I think you're going to be I think it'll be okay. Sport Track finishes. All that said, this leaves Colorado with a CBT starting point of roughly $117 million, $126 million under the 2026 threshold. Plenty of room for plenty of needs, and an awful lot on the plate for a brand new front office. So again, it goes back down to what is the investment? Because obviously they're putting the work in and they're bringing in the talent. But then you bring in the talent. What are you going to give the talent? What are you going to give the coaches? What are you going to give the new front office? And how consistent are you going to be? Are you going to strap them? Are you going to make it say thrive in the margins? Are you going to do that? Or is Dick Monfort going to come out and say, I'm willing to spend the money if you present me with the right deals without overcommitting so we don't get bit? I don't blame Dick Monfort if he's a little hesitant about being a little gun shy on going out and spending some big bucks when the Rockies have been bit by that. But they've been bit by that because they haven't put the time and the effort. I shouldn't say the effort. That's not fair. They didn't do enough evaluation. They didn't use enough analysis to properly vet their acquisitions and their financial commitments to them. And that they need to be, that's another place where they got to be. Dick Monfort and this new front office have to be on the same page, and that same page is going to mean change for Dick Monfort, I think, if this team is going to be successful. And that this is a big part of that equation. How much money is Dick Monfort going to put into this team? How much investing from the top down is the club going to do? We'll have to see. All right, folks, I know that the episode here that you're listening to will be after a game after the crazy marathon Game 3 of the World Series, but we got to talk about that because a lot happened. Coming up next. Before we do that, though, got to tell you about the folks that help make this show possible, and that includes FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action other than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to the fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. Maybe you're like, hey, Jokic, he's going to have go on a roll. Maybe we're going to keep going with Aaron Gordon threes because he's been shooting a lot of them and hitting a lot of them as well. Jamal Murray's had a great start to the season as well. So why not see if you can have some success on the FanDuel app? It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Yes, that's right, $300 in bonus bets for new customers when your first $5 bet wins. Head on over to FanDuel.com for more information. That's FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Locked on Rockies here, bringing things to a close on this Wednesday episode. And the Game 4 of the World Series, what seems, actually Game 5 of the World Series here is seeing Shohei Ohtani take the bump after reaching base 9 times, after hitting multiple home runs, after being a total dominant force, and going out there and the Dodgers winning an 18-inning marathon game, the longest World Series game in history, I believe I saw. And as much as there was to take away from that game, Scherzer and Kershaw, 18 pitchers used, 400-something pitches thrown. Yamamoto's warming up in the bullpen. I mean, that is, as long as it was, and as crazy as everything that happened was, that is just baseball right there. It's just the weirdness. It's the inability to score. It's the weather. It's the weather factors. It's this. It's that. It's a million things, and it ends with a solo shot from Freddie Freeman, who, man, is just incredible. And hey, I hate the Dodgers. No, I am no Dodgers fan here, as you know. But moment after moment, big situation, time after time again. Yes, I know it's because we were just talking payroll. They spent all that money and they brought all that talent, but they built this team and they have guys that never, even great players, have struggled in big moments and when the stage is the brightest. And that's just not the case for this Dodgers team. The Dodgers were postseason chokers for a while. And it was a big part of why their dominance has been this far delayed and why they've needed to be a team that has invested so much money into the talent that they have. You just can't escape them, man. I mean, every single time the Blue Jays miss any opportunity, leave any guy on base, you just can't do that. The Dodgers, no one in baseball was better than the Dodgers and the Blue Jays at coming back and winning baseball games. And now these two forces have collided. And unfortunately, what we've seen so far in the series, the Blue Jays came back, again, 11% chance for the Blue Jays to make the World Series after those first 2 games in the ALCS. But that win yesterday and potentially the win in Game 4 with Shohei on the bump, with being in LA, with it being all, everything rocking and rolling at full speed here. You can't doubt the Dodgers. This is what they're built for. This is what they do. And it stinks and it's so infuriating and it leaves me in a jealous rage. But the Dodgers invested. The Dodgers pushed the chips in. The Dodgers pushed the envelope. The Dodgers maximized their resources that they have that no one else has, and I understand that part of it. But instead of crying poor, instead of shying away, instead of trying to thrive in the margins, they said, we want to be the dominant force in baseball, both talent, payroll, development, all this stuff. And they have invested and gone all in it. And that's a respect. That's what the great teams will do and should do. But just as we're talking about how the Rockies are going to build and navigate their finances, the front office and the people that are coming in, they got to deal with that team. They got to deal with that team a whole lot. And then if you get yourselves in a position where you can be playing in October, you got to deal with that team on a different gear, on a different level, where they have 20 times the experience than your organization on the biggest stage. Long road ahead to being able to compete with that team if you're the Rockies. And for me, and for us, I think we're in for a darn good rest of the series here, because the World Series, the playoffs in general, just been a lot of fun baseball. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Fire off your Rockies hot takes. And folks, that's going to do it for us here today on the Locked On Rockies podcast. Thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen of the day, go check out Locked On MLB and Locked On MLB Game Night. Plus, we got you covered with all sorts of Colorado sports on the Locked On Podcast Network. Locked On Broncos, Avalanche, Nuggets, Buffs, free and streaming on your favorite streaming services and on YouTube as well. So don't miss out there. Folks, until next time, this is Paul Holden saying so long from the Locked On Rockies podcast.